Whatever shall I do? Hello, friends. My name is ssuartscire, and I'm vertical live streaming again. I would switch to horizontal, which is my norm. Then I read, when I was doing so, vertical, recommended for mobile streaming. Stream will be shown on vertical stream feeds and shorts feeds. So I was like, okay, fine. If it's better to stream vertical, I'll stream vertical. I mean, I stand vertical, so why shouldn't I stream vertical? We shall stream, right? Whatever shall we do, we shall stream. Both of these packs of cigarettes are empty. That will never do. I have to go get a full pack of cigarettes. Empty packs of cigarettes are useless. Why? Because they have no cigarettes in them. So let's go get a full pack. Meow. And then we'll watch Trouble Eat, because it's been bugging me about it for God knows so long now. But ever since I got up. This is like half an hour ago. Okay, Mr. Mion. Let's go watch you eat. Okay, all right. Let's watch you eat. Fine. What a good man. What an important kitty friend. Eating with your mouth. I am so impressed. I never even thought about that. I keep eating with my butt. Anyway, what we're doing today is we're eating with our butt. That's our plan. All of us on the stream. We're going to spend all day shoving food up our butt and seeing how much of it digests despite not going through our stomach. And how much of it just falls back out with the poo. You won't fall out with the poo. No. Because you're a handsome kitty. Daddy knows. Yes, I'm right here. Yes, you're a good kitty. What an important man. What a noble beast. You're winning all the nobility prizes in the beast category. So anyway, we're just, unfortunately, I have to watch the cat eat. Then we'll go back to the garage where you want to be. Because out there you can smoke cigarettes. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for not lighting up until we get out to give him a Pepsi. I think he likes Pepsi. I just drank water. I can't believe it because I almost never drink water. Capito eats, she just doesn't need an audience. She's a sane cat. She doesn't require somebody to watch her eat. She's easy. She's an easy cat. This cat's a pain in the ass. She's a normal cat. This fucking thing thinks it's a dog. Trouble has so many expectations about everything. Like, he expects us, like Rachel said the other day, what was it, 7:41 or 8:41? She's like, it's 7:41. He comes and starts meowing for us to go to bed. Trouble's from the streets. He knows how important it is to have someone watching your back. Yeah, well, unfortunately, he doesn't really need that to apply that lesson anymore. You know, he knows that I'm not going to steal his food. He knows that Rachel's not going to steal his food. So the only possible threat he has here to his food is Capio. Capio never goes and tries to steal Trouble's food. And even if she did, I'd just pour more food on the plate. So he just needs to get himself accustomed to a warfare field of things, you know? As do Rachel and I. Capio never really seemed to be bothered by anything anyway. Trouble was very bothered by the move, felt very betrayed, and basically just looked at us and shook his head for like a couple of months. But now he's gotten accustomed to this place, and he's happy here. But he's also become almost entirely an inside cat. He rarely goes outside. And it's like he used to be mostly an outside cat. Capio, too, has become mostly an inside cat. I guess it's because the house is, you know, they can go anywhere in the house if they want to. They don't really ever go upstairs, but rarely. When Rachel and I both go sleep in the day room in Rachel's room, then sometimes the cats will come up there with us, one of them. But by and large, the cats don't seem to believe that upstairs is worth going to. So, I don't know. I'll tell you this. You can take the cat out of the streets, but yeah. Well, I like to say that Trouble is a lady on the streets, but a freak in the sheets. He is a freak in the sheets in the sense that Rachel and I, if we didn't kick him off the bed, we could be having full-blown sexual intercourse, and that cat would try to lie on our legs and stop us or something. This has happened many times. I'm sleeping, and I realize at some point in the night that Trouble has pushed me all the way over the edge of the bed, and he's like sprawled out, taking up most of the bed. And then to get him to move over, I gotta lift up the blankets like this, and he'll just flop and roll over and just won't even get up. Well, yeah, Trouble clearly thinks when we get naked, it's time for a threesome, you know? We're like, no, Trouble, I'm sorry, we're not into that. We don't roll like that. We're a two-person sexual team. We don't involve third parties. I'll tell you what the cats are liking a lot about this place. All the lizards they get to kill. Of course, I don't like it at all. I don't want them to kill any lizards. It seems like every day almost I have to pick up a dead lizard inside the house. They didn't come in the house and die by themselves. The cats bring them in. As like a gift. I don't want your dead lizard gift, okay? I appreciate the thought, but just I would appreciate it more if you stopped murdering them. You know, like yesterday I was streaming in the morning, Capio runs into the garage with a baby mouse in her mouth. It's maimed somewhat. I have to kill it with my machete to put it out of its misery. The worst, though, was when the cats brought in a baby quail. And then I found it in the bathroom. It seriously looked like it had been field dressed. It was like a bald, raw torso only of a baby quail. Like, it was stripped of all its feathers. I could have just, like, put that directly in the oven, you know? They probably didn't take the guts out, but, you know, it's like one little slice, they could take the guts out, it would have been ready for cooking. It was like a little miniature turkey. Like a bald little miniature turkey sitting underneath underneath the, is it not working? Hello? Should be working. Looks like it's working to me. Let me try to chat something. Why not? I like chat. Oh, it's fixed? Okay, good. So yeah, that one left a little bit of psychic scar on me because it was peeping so pitifully when they brought it in, and it hid behind the chair, and I just wasn't in the mood to try to deal with this at all. So I just went back to bed and woke up later and found this field dressed baby quail in the bathroom. I feel guilty, like I should have gone and caught the little quail and put it back outside. But what I thought at the time was, its mother's probably already gone, you know? So I just didn't want to deal with the sadness, so I just went back to bed. Yeah, it was sad. If I had been on speed, I probably would have rescued the quail, but I was just like, oh, that sounds so hard. Like, the quail didn't understand I'm trying to rescue it. So it thinks I'm like another cat. It tries to get away from me just as much as it does other cats, just like the lizards do. You know, I'm trying to save them. They don't understand that. The lizard I put outside yesterday was still a little bit alive. If it had been completely dead, I would have thrown it away, but it was a little bit alive, so I put it outside on the wall, and I figure something will eat it, like the raccoons or the birds or something. Better than just letting it go to waste, I guess. So, anyhow, I am left with humanity's number one eternal question. Whatever shall I do? Oh my, whatever shall I do? That's how I feel this morning. I feel like saying, oh my. Oh my. Whatever shall I do? I could do mushrooms today. That's a possibility. Not a bad suggestion, actually. Quite a good suggestion. Get down the road. You should be in charge of answering the question, whatever shall I do? All right, Woodland friends. breakfast time. Woodland friends like cutlets, just like I like butlers. I'm watching this anime called Millionaire Detective, and he has a butler. I was thinking, what a pain in the ass to have a butler. He's just another person in your house that you have to deal with and tell what to do and stuff, you know. And what are the advantages of having a butler? If somebody comes to your house, they open the door and take their coat or whatever. I could do that myself. I wouldn't mind being a butler. I think I'd be a terrible butler, is the bottom line. The boss would be like, Jives, bring us some tea. I'd say, fuck off. Make your own tea. Say, I hired you as a butler, though. All right, fine. I'll make some fucking tea. Here's your goddamn tea. And then he'd say, I fire you as a butler because you're doing a terrible job. Hi, DDX09. Uh-oh, I can't open that door. Trouble wants me to open the front door for him to let him out, but it's locked. So you're just going to have to get over that trouble. You're going to have to accept that I cannot open that door. Look at my cool shirt. Oh, yeah, I'm wearing this cool shirt today. I'm winning the cool shirt contest, as usual. Actually, it's pretty rare that I win the cool shirt contest. Only when I wear my Thank You 39 shirt or this shirt will I win the cool shirt contest, really. And this is definitely my coolest shirt. You've got to be fucking kidding me. The side door to the garage is locked too. So I'm going to have to open up the garage door again and go in through the inside door. Host Eric, can we say NI is deductive while SI inductive? No. Deduction is a deliberation process. So TI is deductive. TE is inductive. But not really inductive. It's like FI is sort of inductive when paired with TE, which it usually is. Why are absolute and instrumental values necessary to the cognitive function model? And are you certain the slots are universal? Yes, I'm certain the slots are universal. Why are they necessary to the cognitive function model? Well, it's necessary to type people correctly. You have to factor those things in because they give you important information about where something's slotted. And if you want a complete understanding of how functions define your personality, you can't really understand your personality without factoring in absolute and instrumental values. But it's like the second class, right? Not the introduction to, possibly. It depends on what that class is designed to do. If it's designed to teach people how to type people, you have to go into absolute values. If it's designed to tell people about attentional manners just by themselves without really going into depth, then I guess you could avoid the topic. But it seems to me that one of the main issues in typology right now is that people don't understand that there are two different kinds of values. So, they may ask some kinds of value questions, and they may have in their mind some kind of linkage like, well, ISFJ's value now. But depending on how you ask the question, if you're not distinguishing between instrumental and absolute values, then okay, Trouble, I already watched you eat, for fuck's sake. So NI and SI are both knowledge functions, which means they're instantaneous. The difference between knowledge and deliberation is determined by length of time it takes it to reach its conclusion. Knowledge reaches its conclusion immediately. Any kind of deductive process requires calculation. SI is not just habit patterns, it's knowing by referencing your past experience. So I might incorrectly know, for example, that my chickens are in danger from dog attack because one of the chickens got attacked by a dog one time. This example is from when I lived in Laverne. It's one I've used before. There was a loose slat in the fence. The neighbors got a dog one day, and that dog found the loose slat, pushed through it, came in, attacked one of our chickens. So naturally, I resolved that problem by going along the slats of the fence and hammering them with nails to make sure they were all hammered down. At that point, the risk factor from the dog next door was done. The dog could not possibly get into our yard anymore, and our chickens were safe. But Kimberly insisted that after that we needed to protect the chickens from dogs in general better. Like put a fence on the driveway so dogs don't come down the driveway from the street. Well, of course, that's insane. Just because one of the chickens got attacked by a dog does not necessarily mean the chickens are at risk from being attacked by dogs, especially when the context is as I've described. It was an unforeseeable, unavoidable, one-time event because prior to that day, the neighbors didn't have a dog. You need better than 8 intuition to avoid those kind of wrong extrapolations from your own personal experience. Remember, that extrapolation is, nevertheless, a form of knowing. Kimberly didn't deduce that the chickens were at risk from dogs. She knew it. Well, I mean, yes, that's when knowledge is seamlessly engaging with your activity. So, like when I'm playing the guitar, I don't have to think about the chord shapes or anything. I just know them. When I see the letter C above some lyrics, I just make a C chord. I don't think about how to make a C chord because my fingers remember. It's muscle memory. Muscle memory is part of SI. And so in that case, I don't notice knowing anything because I'm not making any decisions. I'm just executing instructions. On the other hand, let's say you're starting a new relationship and you feel nervous, so you're trying to lock it down, make it be a long-term relationship early on. Make sure that there's not any, like, sleeping with other people or whatever. Well, an SI dom is going to have trouble with that because they don't know yet who you are. They're not using their intuition to determine whether or not this is a good person to be with or whatever. They need to experience more of you, have lots of experiences with you, then they'll feel like they know you. What's the difference between SI third and fourth? Okay, well, that boy class, you've now pushed me into articulating the specifics about 4 or 5. I say odds or absolute evens are instrumental. But the reality is it's a little bit more complicated than that. So the fourth slot function is absolute in its native aspect, but instrumental in its non-native aspect. Aspect means, in this case, I'm just talking about whether it's a communication function or an experiential function. Now, I'm not sure if this works the same way for judgers as it does for perceivers, okay? This is one of the areas where I need to figure stuff out still. Or maybe won't figure it out and maybe somebody else will. But, so what this means with me as an example is I value SI as an absolute value in its native aspect. The physical experiences of SI, like a nice climbing into bed when you're sleepy, eating when you're hungry, that sort of thing. Did you get to see my bun huggers? Hopefully not. And then for me, the SI metaphysical aspect is instrumental, which is to say, I'd like to remember all my songs and stuff, but I take no satisfaction in memorizing them. It's just a pain in the ass. In contrast, my fifth slot function, the one that's consistent with my dominant function, is the absolute value, the aspect, and the one that's inconsistent is the instrumental value. So for me, NI physical is instrumental, NI metaphysical is absolute. The thing is, for testing purposes, it's a good idea to just treat the slots as absolute and instrumental because odds and evens is absolute and instrumental, respectively. Because you can't really make any hay typing people based on their 4 or 5s anyway. The only thing that you can be informed by is if someone appears to have fluency in both 4 and 5, then that's consistent with them being 4 or 5, right? Like I got fluency with both SI and NI. But that's just a confusing thing when you're typing people. It's like you can't tell whether they're SI or NI. It might mean 4 or 5, but it's better off to type from a different direction at that point, you know? And when you say here, when you say, my glasses on, how do you demonstrate that one is absolute and one isn't? I can't really demonstrate that. Like, I can point to a bunch of examples for certain things. Like in most typing sessions, I ask some kind of question about that tries to pin down the 6th slot. What makes you mad at yourself? People display the instrumentality of the 6th slot pretty vigorously. In other words, it's pretty clear that the 6th slot is not an absolute value. I can point to a bunch of empirics about the 6th slot and say, see how consistent this is with what I'm saying. But for other slots, maybe not, because I don't necessarily know that values are especially helpful for slots other than 6 and 8. 6 and 8 are the most instrumental. Like, people don't like having to work in those function areas. I mean, in general, if you're asking me to prove in an airtight way in a fully defensible way everything I'm saying about typology, you're going to be disappointed because there are some things that I'm not even possibly capable of doing that with. However, that doesn't mean I'm not right. The thing is, as with every correct articulation of an explanation or a theory or whatever, when it's correctly articulated and explained is the different time than when it's validated. So the person who generates the correct explanation slash theory for something, in this case it's Jung, but there was a 100-year break before I got around to correcting it, you know. So now that it's been corrected and the things I'm saying are accurate, people who are more sciencey than me, if they wanted to, could establish a bunch of predictions that one can make from what I'm saying and test them in various ways. But I'm not that guy, right? I'm not that guy. I don't care. I don't need to validate it to understand that it's correct, because I have enough consistent pieces of the puzzle to infer that this definitely is what the puzzle looks like, but I can't prove it to you because I don't have those missing puzzle pieces. I mean, no, I think I do need to defend the legitimacy of typology. I just think I'm incapable of doing the job to my standards. If it were a debate case, I'd want to negate. It'd be a lot. It would skew an egg. Af has too much work left to do. Okay, definitely close. Well, I appreciate not having to defend it to you. I assume that all the things I say go on to some big flow somewhere that people periodically go check to see what Eric has. If Eric's updated anything on the flow, you know. A good answer to the question, whatever shall we do, is flow the round. How is NI6 displayed? How does that show being mad at oneself? Well, I'm not sure about the mad at oneself part, but you can see NI6 easily enough. You can determine how it's you can determine the sixth slot, because what you'll see is like for INFP and INTP both, they don't like single determinant answers. They believe they can continue to extrovertedly intuit indefinitely, and that there is no single right answer to things that constrains them. So, like an INTP will probably, like INTPs come around here sometimes. They ask good questions, but they're just testing for weaknesses. They're still not deciding, I agree with Eric, this is the single correct explanation, because they don't trust any single correct explanation. They think, because they're INTPs, that all determination needs to happen by them and within them. And it's never time yet to make a determination. Well, we need to think more and get more information and ideate more. INTPs are also likely to have ongoing doubts about their type, more so than INFPs. You can see why in that video of that INTP lady that I typed, who forced me to walk back my typing of her to, okay, well, I'm not really sure you're an INTP. You could be an INFJ based on these negationary rebuttal pieces of information you're providing me. If I were to take those at face value, sure, it would cause me to call into question your typing. INTPs, though, they're smart and they're good and they know what kind of question to ask to force me to walk it back. Because like I said, if I had to choose a side on this and I was debating it, I'd choose neg. Not because AF's wrong, but because AF's got more work to do. AF's not case ready yet. And you can see it based on some of these questions I got today. Like I said, 6 slots is mad at yourself, but I can't even explain exactly what NI being mad at itself looks like. If you have TE second, then you have TI 6 and FE 7. So your FE polar, it's INTJ, ISTJ. I can never remember inner types per Science. Like, what's the inner type between ISFP and ESTJ? I have no idea. I'd have to think a long time to figure it out. But whenever you ask slot questions, it's very easy. This may be relevant to the question. You publicly advocate for, use, and explain typology, although you understand that it skews neg and is not wholly defensible yet. But me, INTP, type by you, use typology in my musings and don't advocate for it even on my local level of friends because it's not defensible. Well, I mean, there you have it. Because for me, an absolute value is not TI, right? It's an instrumental value. Yeah, exactly. Depot class. On the nose. Because I find NI juicy, it's like, I love single determinate answers, and even more do I love NI in music. So an INTP is very likely to listen to music over again less than me, and is very likely to prefer less sugary, sweet pop kind of things than me. INTPs don't want to spend too much time listening to Call Me Maybe, probably, whereas I love the fucking song. INTPs will say, this is juvenile and simple and like not doing enough or something. Okay, so SI first would be SE8, right? Now, SI first is SE5. The S's, T's, F's, and N's, they mirror each other. So if I've got TE1, I've got TI5. If I've got FI2, I've got FE6. Why is it that way? Okay, well, a type is a configuration of attentional manners. It represents one of 16 possible strategies towards upholding the prime directive, which is closing the gap between expectations and reality. So when we remember that our type is really our first and second function, okay, that's our absolute and instrumental value. The rest of the functions our relationship with the rest of the functions is defined by the fact that we're implicitly our first function and explicitly our second function. So it turns out that if your first function is NE, that it necessitates that NI be fifth and have the qualities of fifth slot, because I'm an action type, but I'm doing action on the external metaphysical field with communicative symbols. NI is designed to observe such work like mine and know about it universally instead of particularly. When somebody comes in and knows particularly, they're looking to their own experience all the time to see if what I'm saying resonates with them. If that's SI, they're likely to be like, okay, but I've got all these experiences that are in conflict with type description that you typed me as. They're hesitant to believe that any sort of external, intuitively crafted insight is going to be more informative to them, meaningfully about anything than their own experience if you're an SI Dom, right? So if you're an NE Dom, though, you're putting out information that is designed to be validated by NI types because it's appealing to universals. So in order to be a successful version of myself, I have to be deft in dealing with the currency of NI. For me to feel as though I've succeeded, what I say has to resonate on an NI level as true. It has to validate on a TI level as accurate. So because truth is critical to me being me, because that's the kind of card I'm dealing out, right? I'm necessarily fluent in NI, even though I'm not an observer inherently. So that means I've got a convoluted, twisted relationship with NI, such that I think it's part of my creative process when it's really an observing knowing function. I treat it as though it's part of my creative process. It's how I'm unconsciously validating what I'm doing all the time. And what other people are doing. So, in other words, any Dom means a fluent but action-framed approach towards NI that misunderstands it as part of the action process rather than a receiving process. Just as a quarterback has to be very familiar with all the receiver's routes, know what the receivers are doing, probably views the receivers as part of the passing process, but is nevertheless not a receiver. So it works like this for each of the slots. Your relationship with your fourth is defined by your first. The fact that your dominant function is occupying most of your attentional capital in conjunction with your second means that your fourth slot gets shaped to serve your first and gets sacrificed in favor of your first in plenty of circumstances. That makes it both underattended to, conscious, and something you're okay with delegating. Don't feel the need to defend yourself about particularly. And that's fourth slot. Okay, so is SI a receiving version of sensory? Yes. SI is receiving your experiences all the time, right? So in other words, like the example I like to use is when I was driving in the car, and this has happened multiple times. When I'm driving in the car, I'm listening to something, right? We get out of the car. We've been driving from here to here. We've been listening to, say, a live stream. Okay, that that we made. And then we get out of the car. We get back in the car, and when I go to start the live stream, I accidentally rewind it like halfway. And I go, oh shit, I gotta find the place where we were. As I'm listening and moving forward little bit by little bit, trying to find the place where we were, every bit that I hear that I heard before when I was driving down from here to here, I'll remember exactly where it was on that drive that we heard that. We were turning the corner, meow, and I said that part, so we've already heard this. So in that regard, SI is receiving all the high resolution data that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I was when we were listening to that. But SI has received this, and I pop up a little image in my head of where we were when we heard that. I can picture that corner I was turning. That's the high resolution data that SI receives and preserves for limited stretches of time. The reason SI doesn't sustain that high resolution data indefinitely is because it's so high resolution. It's too much data for you to keep in your hard drive when it's useless, right? So it's like your brain periodically purges out all that high resolution recent data to replace it with new high resolution recent data, and only remembers the low resolution bits. At that point, SI moves from its physical aspect to its metaphysical aspect. So it may not, later on, it may not remember, but it may, if you're like an SI dom, may remember all the smells, exactly what the quality of the light was in this moment 10 years ago when I had this fight with Joe. It may very well remember that. So for me, it purges out some of that data unless it's a particularly traumatic/dramatic event. Like I will never forget exactly the scene of my dad's death. I will never forget. I can tell you what the quality of the light was. I can tell you, I can picture everything. I can picture it all, clear as day. And I'm not good at visualizing things. But the thing is, what's most important to remember about SI conscious is that it's a involuntary associative trigger thing. So when I walk outside here, it doesn't happen anymore, but it used to happen for a while. When I'd walk out here, there's a sign up on the hill up there that says for sale about the hill across the street. And every time I saw that sign, it used to trigger a memory of a conversation I had with my realtor about trying to buy that hill. Because I didn't want anyone to build across the street from me, right? But it turns out that hill belongs to the water company. They bought it a long time ago and never took down the for sale sign. So I thought about going over there and taking it down myself, but it's not my property, you know? Would SI polar bypass the process and encode it as some long-term object? Yeah, I mean, I think that NI people, NI tool, they may encode some of those things as long-term objects, but what's important to remember is that in any given instance, they're never going to be trying to reference such objects. They don't find such objects informative about right now and going forward, and they don't find the past to be a place worth focusing on. So it's like, if you pay attention to Ruben R., pay attention to how many times he references anything from the past or gives concrete examples for things. He just doesn't. How many times have you heard him talk about, unless he's asked directly about it, which he has been before, he doesn't talk about anything that's ever happened to him. Right? Now, granted, most people here are not generally talking about things that happen to them because doing so indicates that you have a certain kind of particularist frame that makes you unlikely to want to watch this. Does that mean that the two types with your 6 and 8 and their 1 and 3 you are unlikely to jibe with? I think that's completely fair, probably entirely accurate, but I need to think about it more to affirm it more definitively than that. 6 and 8. Well, like I don't necessarily don't get along with SE DOMs. I get along well with ESTPs. But we share a disdain for TE in our 6th slot. So it's probably more like your 6. Just your 6 is their 1. You know. I have issues with TE DOMs. TE DOMs have issues with me. I do have some issues with ESFPs sometimes, but not necessarily. Like my ESFP realtor is kind of my hero, you know. He's one of my heroes, and Dr. Ingram is another one of my heroes. If I have any heroes in life, it's those two men. He in witness protection? Who's he? Are you talking about Jesus? Psh. Wish could party with you two at KP. Hello, Acacia. Is Gnomeo Gone celebrate with you today too? Who's Gnomeo Gone? Would it be like the negative space of the main object in a portrait? Would what be like the negative space of the main object in a portrait? It's important to remember, guys. Sorry I called you guys. I don't want to see us, Joseph. Can you please include details you wouldn't normally include in the chat? Because I can never know otherwise what you're referencing because I may not get to your thing right away, you know? Would you eat food that was shot out of a shotgun into your mouth? I mean, it would depend from how far away. I came here expecting the forehead to be the star of the show. It always is. I've got a lot of it. It goes all the way back to here. Most people's foreheads end like right here. Excellent work, Ruben. This reminds me of a story from 5th grade class with Miss Poopenstoops. He doesn't even have any idea what his 5th grade class teacher's name was. Barrel is dirty, so no. Well, not necessarily. They could have just cleaned the gun. They could have cleaned it with food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Naturally, whatever food they're shooting out is going to scatter some as it leaves the gun. So you might want to try to get, say, tater tots. Okay, KE. Fair enough. Fair enough. I incorrectly most people's the shorter forehead. I think tater tots is the best choice. If you're gonna have food shot into your mouth from a distance, out of a rifle though, not a shotgun, right? You wouldn't want to use a shotgun. You want to use a rifle. And you want to make sure that it shoots the tater tot from such a far distance that by the time it gets to your mouth, it's just traveling like this. You have to get just the right arc on it too. So you said this to make me feel better. I don't feel bad. We're not debating it. I like the idea. I like the question. It's an interesting question. What's the ideal food to have shot at your mouth from a rifle at a sufficient distance that you can catch it in your mouth without sustaining any damage? Shooting food out of a gun reminds me of that song, Institutionalized, when he's talking to the vegan and says, pork won't kill me unless you find a way to shoot it out of a gun. Yeah, who is Genomi Ogan? You don't want that, a whole raw potato. You wouldn't be able to fit that into a rifle anyway. How are you going to exactly fire a tater tot? I'm not sure. But presumably figure out a way to shoot a tater tot. Can you tell if you actually felt bad about anything anyone says that's not obviously a diss? I don't feel bad about things that are obviously disses either. I interpret the meaning of things usually pretty correctly. So if somebody's just attacking me to attack me, and because they hate me, it's not going to bother me. If they're just making insults and stuff at all, it won't occupy any headspace at all. Some kinds of trolling will occupy some headspace, but like I haven't. If you're talking about like that person last night, I haven't thought about it at all, really, until right now. Because there's nothing new to it, you know. It was just a repeat of the same stuff. So things that'll maybe get some headspace from me are threats. You know, that'll get me some headspace. At this point, I can pretty much always tell. It's just a matter of how long it takes me to tell, right? Usually I intuit pretty right away-ish, but sometimes, depending on how lurky they are in their chat strategy, it may take a little longer. Don't say that. Now people know how to push your button. No, Michelle Shock had a great name for me. Douchebro Dickweed. Douchebro Dickweed, I really like that. I have to give her props for starting the email like that. Dude, douchebro dickweed. Whatever. When I want my mouth to be shot full of rye, I recommend aiming to be rifle. Apparently she does, even though I'm totally a beta male. There's no red pill in me at all. You know, when it comes to chicks anyway. When it comes to everything else, I'm the most badass motherfucker there is. You know, it's like, as long as things stay out of the physical realm, I'm a complete beta male when it comes to women. And I think that's good. And I'm not going to take any shit either from anybody. And that's it, you know? And the thing is, I don't know how to justify my confidence and comfort except to say SI4 loves things that require interface and stuff like that. SI4 for me manifests as becoming increasingly comfortable, deft, confident, nuanced, effective in being me. The longer I persist in the same activities, etc. So I've been doing YouTube for a long time. And I've encountered all these things before, many times. So the ability to push my buttons has diminished over time. because you just become desensitized to stuff, you know? Well, no healthy person persists in taking shit from somebody. They either withdraw, um, appease and then withdraw, or fight back. So only either unhealthy or trapped people are persistently subjected to abuse. Now, the thing is, I was persistently subjected to abuse for a couple of years with Kimberly. So you might say I was unhealthy during that time, or I was making unhealthy choices. Should you become or anyone else become desensitized to this stuff, though? Well, yeah, it's the best offense. The best offense against spite monkeys, whatever you want to call them, is way to let go of your neck at the last minute. Eventually, it just becomes more of a repetitive irritant. Yeah, and not necessarily a huge irritant if I'm just like hide, hang up, hide, hang up. It's simple enough. If it doesn't interfere with my train of thought, if I can continue what I'm talking about, then it's not really that irritating to me. Maybe irritating to the people who are watching, but now confronting fear is the best cure to fear, not the absence of your ability to pick up on it. Well, of which cure is better, a cure is good. So I may have attained a cure in a non-optimal way, but I've nevertheless attained it. Desensitization is the cure for unnecessary fear. But the thing is, I was never really afraid of this shit in the first place. The only thing it might cause me to feel a little bit of fear, or at least concern, are threats. But even then, I'm hard to get at because you don't want to you don't want to come back here to my house with any kind of bad intentions. No, my nerves aren't fried, and my skin's not thicker. I just, it's like, it's just like football on defense. If a team keeps running the same play, you will eventually learn to stop it every time. If a team only has a few plays, and they run them over and over again, then you're going to stop them every time, and you're going to not worry about them scoring on you. So you're not going to have any anxiety. Which, however, Kimberly example means that some of it would have been a signal of sorts to get away from talking about it. Exactly. And I was refusing to, I was ignoring the NI, right? I was pulling I can fix her with words because I have that much faith in words. But I said all the right words many, many times. And her number one way of being toxic was to absolutely refuse to listen to anything I said. To the point of going like this. When she spoke, of course, she attacked me. She critiqued the person, not behavior, not actions, the person, and would tell these sensitive stories about how bad I was and why I was so bad, and never even give me any examples, you know? Just like, you're such a selfish person. I mean, Oh my God. And she might use some examples from my life, but um, they wouldn't be examples of me exactly being. It wouldn't be like me being selfish to her. Like, why did you take all of this thing and you didn't save any for me? That would be fine critique, right? Um, she would just say like, just look at you. You your house was such a shithole. You're so selfish, or something like that. Before you moved here, why hasn't it made me selfish? Because you only care about you, not anything else. I'd be like, okay. All right. But see, the thing is, I'd never encountered this before. I had never been uh, attacked by somebody in my life like that before, continually over time, persistently. Not every single moment, not constantly. We had some okay moments. We had some nice dinners, whatever, But I had no way of understanding until I experienced it because I'm an SI type and I'm an NI ignoring type that you cannot fix broken, you can only fix damage. And even that is questionable. I think the thing that is most repairable is wounded. Like, I think Rachel and I were both wounded coming into this relationship, but not damaged and not broken. So, um, I'm glad I went through that relationship with Kimberly because it helps me to understand abuse much better and to recognize and to be able to describe to people in concise ways what comprises abuse. If somebody's critiquing your person persistently and not your behavior or your actions, that comprises abuse. If a person is persistently extrapolating negative things about your person from specific examples of your behavior, then that comprises abuse. Somebody who cares about you will not try to make the case that you're a bad person. When you do something bad, they'll critique that bad thing, but they'll make the case that that's not you. You're not like that, really. I mean, some people are broken. The people who wrote that song may have been just bent, but some people are broken. And they're called BPD people, borderline personality disorder, or narcissists, or, we have a couple of different terms for basically what I call accountability avoidance syndrome. If you cannot be accountable to others, if you can never say I'm wrong and I'm sorry and let me try to learn from this, then you are broken. You have accountability avoidance disorder, and you will unavoidably be a wrecking ball in the world to some extent. I don't think BPD people can be fixed, but I'm willing to be proved wrong about that. I know I can't fix them. I've spent years trying to fix Liz, who's BPD and Corey's wife, and made zero progress. And I spent years intensively and in close proximity to you all the time, trying to fix Kimberly to no effect. Now, granted, I wasn't trying to train her to use cognitive behavioral therapy or something like that. I was just trying to explain things to her. Like, my explanations should solve everything. Uh, and my strategy in relationships theretofore, and going into the relationship with Kimberly, and I continue to use this strategy, was I don't break up with anybody because I understand the rules of the boat. But if a significant other is behaving unacceptably, I will hammer that behavior until they either change it or leave me. That's always been my strategy, right? Um, that did not work with Kimberly at all. And eventually I had to break up with her because I'm stubborn but healthy. She's broken, which affords her the capacity to be much more stubborn than me. Kimberly smoked all kinds of weed. Kimberly smoked weed all the time. It is a very FI polar strategy. But even more, it's an intuitive FI polar strategy because I'm so meaning based that I need to know the status of a relationship, its permanent status, like 2 days after I start going out with a woman. I can't even operate at all unless I know what our permanent status is. Are we friends with benefits? I could operate in that potentially, but I need to know that's our permanent status. Or are we girlfriend, boyfriend? In which case, we're in a long-term relationship. Really, nothing else in between. Or are we just friends? I mean, we're not gonna hit it again. You got 3 possibilities, and that's it. I need to know right now on day 2 which one it is. Well, I'm okay with friends without benefits if that's how it is. I just need to know right now. I need you to tell me because I don't have any opinion on the matter. Which is ridiculous, right? I mean, for me, it's a way of working around FI polar, I guess. So because I apparently have no idea what I want, but I've gone on a date with a woman. I mean, if I went on a date with a woman and it went terribly, obviously I'd know that I don't want anything. I don't want to go out with her again, and that's happened plenty of times. But as soon as I have sex with a woman, I need to know right afterwards what our permanent status is, because otherwise I'm going to have to deal with a bunch of FI stuff. Yeah, benefits without friendship. Or acquaintances with benefits. I need a stick. All right, let me find something to use to poke this. It's clogged, of course, again. Captain clogs a lot. Then I resent the person for some reason. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm resenting them for. Well, you're resenting them probably because they're not respecting the boat adequately. If you've not ever heard it before, here's that boat analogy. Once you get into a long-term relationship, it's like you decide to get into a boat with somebody. You've got to stay in the boat. The boat needs 2 people to row. If you are somebody who wants to keep talking about getting out of the boat, then you're making your partner jump out of the boat, swim, and go retrieve you from the water, and then say, okay, well, so do you want to be in this boat or not? So like people who are wishy-washy about whether we should be together. To me, I find that incredibly awful because I'm trying to be a good boat partner. I have to keep jumping out of the boat and drag you back into the boat, or you keep complaining about the boat, something like that, then you're not being a good boatmate. So once you're in the boat, the questions about whether you should have gotten into the boat together or whether this is a good enough boat to be in or whatever, those questions should be left behind you because you are now off to sea. And there's, if the boat crashes, well, then you just have to be rescued by the Coast Guard, and then you get rescued by separate Coast Guards and go to different places. But the Coast Guard being your own individual support network outside of your significant other or whatever. You barely know me. You're already wanting to sail. You don't seem to have good judgment. But right. Well, this is the problem, is that whenever I would sleep with a woman, I'd think, to me, sleeping with a woman is going for a sail, and then coming right back. And I need to know, should I get on other boats too or not? You know, I need to determine whether I should keep looking at boats or if I should just stay on this boat. I mean, I don't find my relationship a roller coaster at all. Roller coaster might be a good analogy for a bad relationship. Most people think you're asexual and aromantic. Probably most people don't have an opinion on those things about you. But, you know, because probably most people have no idea who you are. Maybe it's like a log ride boat. Well, yeah, it sounds KE like you might be extrapolating a little prematurely from a small sample size. There are 7 billion people in the world. Most relationships are bad and not boats. Okay, well, I agree with you. Almost no relationships are like me and Rachel. Me and Rachel have zero conflict. Any momentary disagreement is immediately resolved. We're always kind to each other. We always speak kindly to each other. And we both sort of bend over backwards to be a good team player. Her because it's second slot tool function in part, and me because it's third slot absolute value. So I said to Rachel last night, "Are you mad at me?" And she's like, "No, why?" I said, "Because I haven't been paying really any attention to you." And I saw this look on her face that revealed, no, she thought that I might be mad at her because she wasn't hanging out with me enough. So it's hard to be in a bad relationship when all your potential conflicts are like that. I read it clear as day on her face. Oh, she thinks that I'm mad at her because because she's not paying enough attention to me. But we're both on Vyvanse. We want to do our own thing. It's just what Vyvanse makes you, you know? And even when we don't want to do our own thing, we're still in the same house. Like how close do we have to be all the time? It's ridiculous. I have spent every moment of my life with this woman for the last 4 years, just about. And I never get sick of her. But I also don't feel like pouty if she's not paying enough attention to me. If I ever were to feel like that, I'd probably just go have sex with her, you know? I'd say, there. Now we've established that you need to get good and fucked. Give her a good stern fucking, and I just could say, okay, I'll go back to listening to your terror things or whatever. She's not playing Baldur's Gate. She is playing mystical internet nonsense. Like this thing tells you based on your whatever which shape you are. There's star, triangle, square, circle. Which shape you are. I could make that website, I bet. And it would get tons of traffic from people like Rachel. Which shape are you? I have a bunch of questions just about, like, which painting do you like best? Which man? And then give them an answer at the end. Square. This means you are man. And put a lot of positive stuff in there. It would get tons of traffic, I bet. I don't want to share any of my organs. Well, I mean, I share my penis with her all the time. I turned down the twin cest because I'm a basic B who romanced Astarion, and I didn't want to traumatize him with another first encounter. What in the world are you talking about? I have no idea what that means. So yeah, I should make a website that just has some questions, and then just assign randomly, like they answer these questions at this time, and they answer this one, their circle, this is one of their rhombus. You are one of the rarest shapes, rhombus. I could do shape compatibility. If you are a square and your partner is a circle, you are extremely compatible because a circle fits inside of a square without bothering it just by touching 4 points. My life path number is 22. Yeah, it's a master number. Numerology loves me. Astrology loves me too. Yeah, well, I will agree that I feel like I've said before that I'm living with the bumpers on the gutters of the bowling alley. I seem to have been my life seems to have been put on easy mode. My worst mistakes end up having the least possible consequences, and somehow I emerge from it unscathed every time, relatively unscathed, There's no good explanation for why. Why, how and why did it come about that I'm in this house and not working and just fucking around and living the good life? Just random luck. Not any, I can and should take no credit for it. To some extent, I earned some of it as a kid by contributing to the family property, income property business, working on the houses and stuff. But I got paid for that at the time, so my dad would pay me a little bit if I worked on the properties. He didn't pay me anything for working at home, but the mere existence of the game made me cry many times without knowing why. Oh, is it a Baldur's Gate reference? I kind of want to play Baldur's Gate because I played Dungeons and Dragons a lot as a kid, and Baldur's Gate's from old time, long time ago. Dungeons and Dragons. It's like one of the OG like dungeons you could purchase that you could run, like a preset dungeon thing. You don't have to have a dungeon master making it up. It's like preset. Baldur's Gate was one of the first OG one of those, playing it when it was just a straight up table game with dice and stuff. Baldur's Gate's the best game ever made? Okay, well, Maybe I should play it. Is it? It's on the PC, right? Are you going to see us though, Acacia? I know you don't want to be us, but are you going to see us? I was joking, kept down the road about that. I thought that room was horrible and hideous. It looked like total grandma's house, but it was also like kind of a little bit shabby looking. We much preferred the other room, rock bottom. Although I will concede that Courier and Ives, we got much better Wi-Fi reception, but that may be because they upgraded the Wi-Fi or made it better or something, or it could be because we were in a better spot. I'm not sure. You friend zoned all your companions on your first run? Oh, you mean you can get in relationships in Baldur's Gate or have sexual encounters and stuff? Um, well, there were certain. It was fine. Like thematically, it was solid. It did its job of being a theme room and of Courier and Ives. It had a lot of paintings in the bathroom by Courier and Ives, and it had Courier and Ives style grandma-iness to it. But I don't know. We got that room because there were only a couple available still when we booked the room. So we didn't really have many choices. It was the only one that was affordable we could choose. And it wasn't really that affordable. The hotel had no vacancy. So they were sold out that night. I want to check my shirt and see where is Johnny playing tonight. I refuse the label. Okay, well, you can do that if you want. What? Where is Johnny playing today? Can you tell me? Can you see my shirt? I might have to take it out to do this. Hold on a second. Today is what? 9/26 or 9/27? What's the date today? What is the date today? 26? Okay. I forgot where it was. 26. He's in Fort Collins, Colorado. Tomorrow he'll be in Boulder, Colorado. And then the next day he has a day off. Good for him. What do you think? What do you think about the shirt? Pretty cool, huh? Looks good. I like it. This dog has a hat on. Oh, really? I'll say. And people won't take me very seriously. Yeah, it is. It is good, Katie. It's good like a t-shirt should be. I thought about going to see him when he comes to NJ. Is NJ New Jersey? Let's find out. Let's look at the shirt. Okay. Just gonna I'm not going to hide my body from you, but I am just going to show you my back. Because I'm a little coquettish, okay? New Jersey, huh? Don't look. I'm shy. Oh, he's playing Asbury Park on 1010. I think he sings about Asbury Park, one of his songs, perhaps. It's Wide-Eyed. In Asbury Park, yeah. Meow, 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 meow. Meow, 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 meow. Oh, you just gotta stick it in my underwear, new group. Just put it right down there. Just cram it in the underwear. Cram it in the buns. The bun huggers. You know, I'm wearing bun huggers today. So that's pretty sexy. See? See the bun huggers? Obviously, I have my modesty pants on to hide them. You can't just go around the world walking around in your bun huggers. I'm guilting you. What really helps with the views? I do like taking off my clothes. In some contexts. This is not one of them. In that instance, I thought it worked for humorous purposes. Because I was going to do the whole coquettish thing, you know. That'd be funny. If you don't think so, that's fine. I fully respect the audience's decision as to regarding whether something's funny. I accept your critique. No, I'm not getting naked. I've got my Johnny shirt on instead. You've got as much coquettishness from me as you're going to get today. I'm sorry. I may even put on my modesty coat. I don't want you guys to see too much of my arms. I really should put on a modesty hat because this is highly revealing. Sign holder, be safe and wear your hard hat. Bright green safety vest and modesty pants. Your sign says slow, but you wave me fast as my wife and I did confusedly drive past. It's a pretty good song. I have to listen to it some more to make sure I get the melody of that one part right. But it tells an important story. That's what matters. My OnlyFans page only has one picture on it, and it's a picture of this finger up close like this. And the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's OnlyFans if you have no fans. In that case, the quantifier only may be true, but it's not informative. And that's one to grow on. I cannot imagine that there is anybody in the world If I had an OnlyFans page, I don't know how OnlyFans works at all, but presumably there's some like list of people you scroll through and pick one to look at or whatever. There's not one person in the world who would pick me, except maybe Rachel out of pity, to look at an OnlyFans. You know, people don't want to look at some old toothless man. People want to look at naked chicks. Little Ricky Straddles. What's me? Eric's Bun Huggers. Well, in that case, I did enjoy it because I thought it would make for good humor. And I like my verbal quips, like my candy bars. Good humor. Garrus is a giant lizard? Well, I had no idea. I'm not going to invite him to my next party, after all. Me is a game trilogy called Mass Effect. What is the Mass Effect? Does it cause things to lose mass? Cause things to gain mass? Does it convert energy into mass? I'd pay for his OF. That would be your loss. I have no idea what you're talking about. Don't diss the Riz. Who's the Riz? Ruben has a YouTube channel. He uploaded a video about how to play a certain Johnny song, which I watched and learned from. Ruben's a good guitar player. It's like, how did you get to be such a good guitar player in so few years? It seems unfair. It took me a long time to become an okay guitar player, and I'm still not a good guitar player. Just part of Eric's cross to bear. He's a slow learner. Oh, I did it again! I have to open the garage door again because I'm locked out of the house every other way. I like piano. I love fooling around on a piano. But and I had formal lessons when I was a kid, but I had a very TE teacher, and she didn't engage me with it at all. The correct way to teach. Oh my God! How did I do this? I thought I was opening it right then, but I was closing it. No, maybe I just stay outside for a little while. So I can't seem to manage going into the house. Here's a stick. This is good for poking. I wish I had a piano. I should just get a, what do you call it, keyboard. Distributed my intentional skills points into technique while completely avoiding memory. Well, you know, what you have that I have that everybody has to some extent is the most native manifestations of SI, which include things like the capacity to know when you've broken your leg and muscle memory. Muscle memory. Your fingers have much better SI than you do. Why? Because your fingers are all either ISFJs or ISTJs. That's why. Sayonara. Sayonara, sayonara, and we'll see you again, hopefully the next day too. And we all will know then what we want. You could be made of poo. No, Akeisha. It's nap time? Well, you gotta take your naps. Nap time is very important. I don't blame you for going to take a nap. Nap will make you feel better. Go rub one out and take a nap. Go number 3 and then go to sleep. My OnlyFans finger, it's a proven counter-aphrodisiac. So it's good for people who are feeling too horny. They look at it and then they go, ew. Look at that horrible mouth. It's like watching my grandmother have sex. It's horrible. One, two, three, four, 5. Remember the number 5 is pretty important. Okay. I'm going to click that. Going to click this. Rub one in and take a quick pour an hour nap. Oh, do women rub one in? I didn't know that. Good to know. Makes sense. Because they're, they've got an inversion instead of an extrusion. Smell you later. It's not a workaround. It's just, it's the machine code level of SI that everybody has because nobody's completely incapable of engaging attentionally via any function. Otherwise, we wouldn't be fully human. Like, I definitely have lots of FI. I feel things all the time. Often I feel things, I'm very emotionally not clogged up. I cry all the time. Sounds good, Rachel. Good morning, my beloved darling, my beautiful wonder, my glistening star in a night sky full of regular stars. I am very curious about this Baldur's Gate. I gotta look it up. I wonder if it's a PC game, right? It's not a console game, is it? Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3? Is that the one we're talking about? Except, let's see, Steam. Oh, it's Steam. I'm gonna have to install Steam again. That's annoying. What's GOG.com? Pre-order now. You mean it's not even out yet? Collector's Edition PC. I've already accepted all your cookies, fucktards. It's not even out yet. €260. Fuck that noise. That's ridiculous. €260. Spending €260 on a video game. Okay. Thank you for saying my voice is pleasant. I appreciate it. Takes a lot of effort to make it sound like this, as I naturally speak when I'm not live streaming, when I'm not making videos. I'm just chatting with Rachel. I talk like this. Good morning, Rachel. That's my natural voice. But if you look at my early YouTube videos, that's how I sound. But over the years, I've been told that that voice makes people feel like pulling their ears out. So I decided to work on a fake voice, and this is it. Because all my life is about being fake. I want to be as fake as possible. If you're FI polar, then what slot is most likely to not feel anything? Well, I mean, FI polar is most likely to have odd kind of responses to FI things, whether it be not being bothered by something that other people think should bother you a lot or something, or whether it's laughing at something that's should make you concerned. Like when Rachel and I watched this Wind Vacations attack, there's this one where this helicopter is flying too low to these trees. And people are all watching an air show. And the helicopter's rudder things or propelling things are blowing so much wind that all the people are being blown around and the trees being blown, so the branches are breaking and falling down and stuff. I just started laughing. I just thought it was so funny. But I look at Rachel and she's like, well, they're fine. I was like, okay, helicopter pilot. You need to have a better understanding of how much wind your propellers make. I don't know what ASP Berbers is. Can you tell me what ASP Berbers is? Oh, Asperger's. Oh, well, I mean, everybody feels things. Probably the type that's least connected to their FI is ESTP because to some extent FI is maximally engaged when it's engaged in terms of what it authentically means to people being affected, right? So you're a little bit less FI polar when you're more fluent with meanings. I had a similar thing when I was on a panel for hiring a photographer, and he started pouring his heart out. He got to the point that he ugly cried, and I couldn't help but just look in confusion. Well, I didn't think anybody would look in confusion in that context. Eric, I don't understand why TE is always paired with FI and FE with TI. Because um, because the interface TE, which is trying to solve problems or attain solutions, no, I don't, bull puppy, is it needs to know what the desired outcome is. FI knows what it wants, what the desired outcome is. In that regard, FITE are always particularist. TE is naturally about solving things that are causing you emotional distress because you don't want them, about attaining things that you do want. And so you can't engage in an interface with anything without knowing what you want. I'm currently fixing our dryer. I took off 2 of the fuses, thermal fuses, and bought replacements. They're getting delivered today or tomorrow. And I will put them back over onto the dryer and then test it and then put it back on and hopefully it should work again. It works, it like spins around and stuff. It just doesn't have any hot air, it just has cold air. So anyway, and similarly with TI and FE knows how something's playing with a given person that you're talking to. And when TI and FE are working together well, FE is approving of things that are fair and disapproving of things that are not fair. If you're hurting somebody else's feelings and it's very clear to the FE person that you're hurting someone's feelings, there might be a conflict between a TI person and an FE person. TI person saying, what I'm saying is accurate and correct, and therefore there's nothing wrong with me saying it. And the FE person saying, yeah, but you're not being very considerate of their feelings, and ultimately making an argument that that's not fair. In order for FE to have a more of a firm grip on what it needs to have a firm grip on, because it's a communicative function fundamentally, it looks like an FE person, FE above TI, is still going to be very susceptible to fairness arguments and or the fact that something validates externally. Because the majority of other people are going to be more likely, if they have no particular interest either way, to affirm that which validates externally than they are to affirm something that validates subjectively. So, in other words, TI and FE are on an axis because you can't do one without the other. FI and TE are on an axis because you can't do one without the other. I can't pay attention with NE without SI. I have to remember what's come before to some extent, what I've said before, etc., what other people have said, to know whether something's novel. You can see this maximally in, say, jokes. A joke that works is necessarily novel because jokes operate with the mechanism of surprise. And so I have to know what I've said before, what jokes I've heard before from other people, so I'm not copying their jokes, etc. I can't possibly extrovertly intuit, diverge from what's already known, what's come before, what's already been said, without knowing what's come before and already been said. Additionally, when I seek divergence, in other words, I want something to get weirder or whatever, I will often draw from particular experience some piece and stick it into a story, because I know that its particularism makes it unique and causes the thing to diverge from expected tropes. Expected tropes don't pull from personal experience, they pull from the collective set of narratives that we have. So I might tell a story entirely in such collective tropes like there's a loner who has a strong urge towards justice, and he's an expert at martial arts. He lives a life of isolation, but one funded by a great fortune, which he inherited from a grandfather who was a secret founding father. Now, I didn't pull anything from my own experience there. That was just pulling from when I think about tropes about movies and stuff. If I were to, yeah, Batman, but this guy, instead of having utility belts, he's got martial arts. And his grandfather was like a Mason. He was a secret founding father and made sure to put language that protected our liberties or something like that. So if I were to try to deviate from those universals and create something that didn't make people go Batman or something like that, I would incorporate more particulars into it. There's a man who purchased a pair of guinea pigs. He had plans to use these guinea pigs to accomplish fiendish deeds. So he left the two in their enclosure and let nature do its thing. Soon he had myriad guinea pigs. Inbreeding had caused some of the guinea pigs to be a little strange. But he didn't care because he knew it didn't matter given his purpose for the guinea pigs. His purpose was to overrun the nation of Peru with guinea pigs so that he could steal all of the alpacas because he had heard a story from his father long before that in the Navy, sailors were given these alpaca fur jackets, and they were the best jackets ever. And so he wanted to be in complete control of all the alpaca jacket making processes so that he could hoard them all for himself and be the only person adequately warm in the world. This was his fiendish plan. He had a second part to the plan that came later in which he was going to make all the world colder. He also had a third part of the plan where he was going to kill all alpacas that were not from Peru. Anyway, the story continues for a while. So what did I take from my life? I took the guinea pigs which I had a couple of guinea pigs and they made lots of guinea pigs. And I took the alpaca jacket, which is a story my dad told about the Navy. When he was in the Navy, he had this alpaca jacket, but it's like they were super vigilant about not letting any of the sailors take the jacket when they left the Navy with them. My dad always missed that alpaca jacket. I'm describing the plot of I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry. Really? The evil guy with the guinea pigs and the and the one in the alpaca jackets? I'm pretty sure that's not the plot of that. So I was pulling from my SI when I was talking about the guinea pigs and the alpaca jacket with those basic, so essentially, Spacey thinks you might be ESTJ. Well, good job keeping on getting more typings, even though you already know the answer. Think about instrumental NI. I only saw the trailer. So once I'm given, I could have just said, let's start with guinea pigs and alpaca jackets. And then I pulled details like I remember when my guinea pigs inbred and made a couple of retarded guinea pigs, you know? And then I remember how my dad told about in the Navy these alpaca jackets. So at that point, then I just build around it. It was like, okay, well, we've got a supervillain who's got a fiendish plot. What could the plot be? I've got these two elements. I'll link them together. And then what would be necessary for this plot to work? Well, it would need to be colder than it is. And also, we'd need to eliminate all other alpacas. Yeah. At the end of the session, he said either ENFP or maybe ESTJ. Completely flipped my absolute value and conscious stack from what I ever concluded. You're an ESTJ, huh? Did he do the concision test to check to see if you were NI-polar? Yeah, but see, the thing is, NE can also work off of SE. Like, once there was a man who was really obsessed with paper towels. He had purchased every possible brand of paper towel. Bounty, which was the quicker picker-upper. Brawny, which claimed to be extremely strong. And all the different store brands of paper towels. He encountered a boutique brand of paper towels called um, Super Soaker, which were about this thick. Tried those as well. Then one day he got into flashlights because previously to that, he had accidentally started a fire with a propane torch. So he took out his wallet and he went to buy the biggest flashlight he could find. However, on his way to the store, he saw a roadside stand with a sign that said, "Peach rings, 25 cents." So he was like, I cannot pass up that deal. And he went there and bought like 40 bags of peach rings. Then he remembered he needed to stop by his weed dealer and pick up an ounce. So he was there next. While at the weed dealer, he noted that the weed dealer looked really nice. And he's like, oh my God, dude, where did you get those sunglasses from? And the guy's like, well, I went to Sunglass Hut, of course, in the mall. And so the first guy's like, well, isn't that kind of overpriced, Sunglasses Hut? He was correct. He said, it's not Sunglasses Hut, it's Sunglass Hut. And the second guy said, are you sure about that? Anyway, then they Googled it and resolved the question. After which, on his way to wherever he was going, something about paper towels maybe, he stopped by the CVS to get allergy relief medication. After waiting in line for 4 hours at the CVS, he proceeded on his way. So that's using SE to make shit up, right? Oh, you only had one type of session with him? So you're talking about the same one, okay. Well, yeah, Kaiser Soze from Usual Suspects is, in fact, the perfect example of somebody using any and taking SE instead of SI. You can do either. Kaiser Soze is clearly an any DOM. Could be any tool, but clearly one or two. The man, yes, when I get in the mode. Who's the man? The man with the great machete. Do you work out? I see what you're answering. I can be super consistent. Let go for a bit the last few years, but getting back into it. Okay, well, do you want me to put together an exercise regimen for you? I will. First, I want you to do what are known as scrotum lifts. You're just going to contract, release, contract, release. You can keep up with that for a while, and you're going to discover your scrotum strength increases by up to tenfold. You're going to be more bulky, more cut down there. It's basically Kegel exercises for a man. After you do that, I want you to exercise your armpit muscles by going like this. It makes it basically like try to make a fart sound. That's the next exercise I want you to do. Do that for each arm. Then I want you to do ear pulls like this, because your ears have always looked really weak to me. I mean, you just look scrawny in the ears. I want you to do nostril flares after that. Well, you can combine your nostril flares with your brow raises. Raises? Are you raising or rising your brows? You're raising them, yeah. I want you to do 40 sets of 10 kisses. This exercises the lips. I want you to do 100 sets of 100 blinks, because you also look scrawny in the eyelids. But do 100 of them 100 times, which is 10,000 blinks. So as soon as you're done with that, then you can come back to me and revisit. We'll revisit the topic, and I might add in a few more exercises, more advanced things like chin-ups, which are not the other kind of chin-ups like this. It's with your chin, lifting it up. It helps to have a beard. But don't try that yet. That's advanced. Scrotal fortitude. If you can put that on your resume, you're hired. Okay? Because a lot of men just don't have that. I always put on my resume, I've got healthy ovaries. Figured it couldn't hurt, you know. Anything that I can claim is positive that they can't check, I'll claim it. You know. If they question whether or not I do have healthy ovaries, I'll say, keep your laws off my body. Oh, good. That's excellent, Ruben. I'm glad you've got an exercise machine for your nostrils. What you want is each nostril's end at the same spot as your ear, so you have symmetry, right? So ideally, when I flare my nostrils, it ends right here. And then, of course, the other advantage is I can snort lines of coke that are like this big. Is what weed? I don't know. Is weed? Is what weed? Well, no. What is what? But I don't know. Be verbs. Shouldn't trust them. Is. As though things are. Stop trying to make things that are not the same equivalent verb to be. Just do your job as a helping verb and get out of town when it comes to linking verbs. Just let like smells and tastes be linking verbs. We don't need the verb to be to function as a linking verb. We're only asking for trouble. Mm-hmm. Can I touch grass? I'm assuming yes, but I know I've done it before. I'm not interested in attempting to do it now, though. I can touch the sky. as per Jimi Hendrix. I can touch myself as per the Divinals. When I think about you, I touch myself. But I don't want to do that either right now. So, how about I touch you? There. Now you're touched. Don't you love being touched? I also am going to go work out pretty soon, Ruben R. I got a busy day ahead of me. I did a little testing today because I've been remiss in my training. And I was disturbed to discover that I could no longer lift a full 400 pounds with my scrotum. It's at about 350. So I do believe I can touch the sky, but I don't believe I can fly. And the reason I can touch the sky is because I can make a good argument that the sky begins where my top of my hand is approximately. Whereas I can't really make a good argument that I can fly except via airplanes and stuff. We're going to assume you mean with my arms or independently of any machine. I tried. I flapped and flapped. And I remain completely on the ground. I haven't even managed to get myself 1 inch off the ground. So I concluded that I cannot fly. There may be some other way to fly that I'm unaware of that I'm not using. I'm just trying to copy birds because they fly. Maybe if I attempted to project anti-graviton particles from the bottom of my feet, I'd just simply be able to levitate up into the air. But I wouldn't know where to begin because I'm not sure where my anti-graviton particles are kept in my body. It could be in my scrotum, but it's so bulky now after all the workouts that I probably wouldn't even be able to find it. I'm currently counting down the minutes till the kava bar opens so I can DoorDash my kava bar. You're going to eat kava edibles, Don Carlos? Is that what you're talking about? Because I got to tell you, I hate that brand of edibles and all of its subsidiary brands that pretend to be something else. So, I'm questioning your choice. Yeah, I am. Oh, a drink. Johnny is a guy who plays music. This dog is the dog on my shirt. It's also an image that's used in the video, which is just still image the whole time, for the song Boy Scout. Kava root, not edible cannibal, not cannabis edibles. Oh, I don't know what kava root is. Oh, you mean like kava kava? I think I've had that before. I think I got that before. It kind of gets you a little high or something, right? You can't do cannabis regularly due to your psychosis. Okay, well then, you shouldn't do that if you think it's going to make you psychotic. You don't want to be psychotic. And you're just like, I'm so crazy, I don't know what's going on. And you feel sad. Uh-oh, my cigarette went out. Is the dog meant to be a pentagram? I mean, I don't think so. It's got 6 points, though. Or maybe 7. If you consider this a point. It just looks like a dog with a hat on to me. I'm not even sure it's that. The image from which this comes from is the sunburned back of a guy, and this thing is not sunburned, so it's on his back. It looks like this, but you can't see a lot of detail. They may have just taken that image and said, hey, that totally looks like a dog with a hat on, and then made it more so like that. It's possible. I'm not sure how this image came about for them. I mean, to some extent, I think most people sometimes hurt themselves and don't know how or when it happens. Like, I have these scratches on my lower back. I'll show you right now. What are they? Are they there? No. Are they this side? Yeah, they're here. You see the scratches? I have no idea how I got the scratches. I don't remember getting them. I have no idea. Yeah. Oh, this is supposed to be him as a dog? Oh, did you Google or something? What do you think about Kratom? What do you think about Kratom? It's supposed to be Johnny as a dog, huh? It means ostrich in German. In English, it means awesome. I might get some Kratom. It's conceivable. I've, I've had it before, but I'm not sure I'm not sure I figured out the dosage for it. One time I had a bunch of it and it knocked me the fuck out. Other times I've taken it and not done anything, so I'm not sure how much to take. I've never gotten any extracts. I got a thing of powder one time, and taken the pills before, like capsules that have it inside of it. But didn't quite know what to make of it. You know, I don't like downers or opioids in general. The only downer that I really like is, I don't really like it, but I like taking it at night, is the gabapentin. Makes me go to sleep. A quarter to a half a teaspoon of kratom powder is supposedly the dosage. Okay, well, like Don kinda says, he got a dead batch. Maybe I did too. Who knows? As far as drugs you could buy at the cigarette shop, well, we did a lot of nitrous. You know, I gotta say too. I think we need to keep doing those B12s, Rachel, because my neuropathy is a little bit better, and it's not just gabapentin that contributes to. It's like it's definitely a little bit better. Not much, but a little bit. My SI is good enough to tell. I definitely want you to keep taking those B12s, like a lot of them. Take like 10, 20, you know, a lot of them at one time. And do it for a week straight. And we'll see how your neuropathy feels, okay? Because I feel a little bit of improvement after just a couple of times taking them. You used to take antihistamines, but then found out they were causing partial seizures? Yeah, it is brief. Nitrous was nice when it worked. If you keep having nitrous, it stops working. You stop getting high. Yeah, well, the B12 deficiencies can be a big problem. You know, Delilah read a story about some girl who huffed nitrous gave her neuropathy so bad she was put in a wheelchair. Ketamine is fun if you're on amphetamines. I don't like it nearly as much when I'm not on amphetamines, but anytime I'm on ketamine, I'm almost certainly also on amphetamines. So, can we find out that antihistamines is the leading cause of sudden onset seizures? Don't warn you about that shit. Yeah, well, also there's this thing called benzo-induced neurological disorder, that only impacts a portion of the people who take benzos, but for that portion of people that it impacts like that, it's really bad. Dexedrine? Uh, I'm probably going to ask Dr. Ingram next month to just prescribe me Dexedrine because the Vyvanse is so fucking expensive. And Vyvanse is just Dexedrine with a lysine molecule. You have cannabis-related muscle spasms? Are you sure it's from the cannabis? That seems very unlikely. I mean, cannabis is one of the least toxic things there is. It's less toxic than any other drug you do. Or what happened to Jordan Peterson is he got addicted to benzos, and he didn't want to kick them himself and experience that discomfort. So he went to Russia and had some weird procedure done on him where they put him in a medically induced coma, and he got a little bit of brain damage from that. It could be you're dehydrated too, Don Kindness. I get cramps, which are like muscle spasms, whenever I get dehydrated, which is a lot. Many days, I note on at least one of my peas, I go, oh my God, that's so yellow. I start drinking more liquid and it gets white again, but The voices can control the twitches? Huh. What are the voices saying to you anyway? They're saying, hey, Don, I really like what you did with your hair. I have voices inside me, but they're all me or my characters. Tiffany, she speaks a lot inside of me, but she usually speaks out loud when I'm doing things like, y'all go die. When things are being difficult, when objects are being difficult, I become Tiffany. Or like when I used to shoo the peacocks away, I would become Tiffany. Y'all let go. They're berating you, being assholes. Well, you should not listen to them, Don Kindness. You should listen to me. You are not a terrible person. You are a good person. You are lovable and loved. Well, at least they weren't accusing you of being a bigamist. Who cares if you're a bigot? Whatever that means. Like, good voices critique behavior and actions, not people. Sounds like your voices are critiquing you, not your behavior and actions. Whatever going on in your head is not your behavior or actions. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, it's like I entertain so many possibilities that it necessarily entertain bad ones as well. That doesn't mean I'm attached to them. It just means I'm musing about them. Until it becomes speech or action, it's not subject to critique. I mean, simply because it's not subject to other people knowing about it even. Stage left even. It's big, huge, gigantic even. Well, just remember that, Don Kynos, and do your best to just ignore them, because you should never empower abusers to abuse you. So, you listen to me, not them. But Eric, what if you're not talking? Well, you could reference one of my previous videos. A video maybe entitled, "There's Nothing Wrong with You." Which is one of the most powerful sentences you can say to a person. Don Kynos, there's nothing wrong with you. Except for the fact that you're crazy, of course. But, you know. But seriously, there's nothing wrong with you. You may have difficulties you got to cope with, but don't let anybody tell you there's something wrong with you. The distinction between strategy and tactics is kind of fluid, right? What's tactically worth doing can only ever be tactically worth doing if one has some sense of... You thought I was making fun of you? No. Yeah, I had some person with some mental illness from Florida one time. I engaged with this person on the phone a couple of times, trying to help a little bit, who was convinced that I had all these hidden messages in my videos that were speaking directly to them. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. But they had this, crazy theory about like me engaging with some other people in a plan to secretly do this and then deny it or something. I tried to, of course, I just tried to explain things. Like, that doesn't make any sense because blah, 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 and etc. I don't remember what ended up happening. Nothing of note, I guess. Tiffany says the words almond milk. What she means is vodka. I don't know if they were SIDM or not. Psychosis, delusions, and stuff are not type specific. They're specific to the mental illness. So I have a niece by an ex-niece, I guess. What's her name? Jessica's sister. Delilah's cousin. I can't believe I can't remember her name. Let's call her Judy. I can't remember her name. Judy is schizophrenic, and when she was hospitalized not that long ago, when she was in the hospital, she explained the only person she could talk to at all was Delilah. Izzy, thank you. No, Jessica's the not schizophrenic one. So Izzy believed that the sound of people's footsteps, the pattern of the footsteps conveyed messages to her intentionally. So, and the thing is, I know what it's like to hear voices or whatever, because when I have been awake for a long time, this phenomenon occurs, which I call music or voices in the water or in the wind. So that when there's a kind of a steady but varying sound, like water coming out of a faucet, I'll be like, there has got to be a radio on somewhere because I can clearly hear big band music playing in the water, but there's nothing playing. There's no music playing at all. That just means I'm starting to get so sleep deprived that I'm basically, it's the equivalent thing of seeing shapes in clouds, but with sound. And it's also the case that when I've been up for a long time in the past, it just hasn't happened in a while because I haven't stayed up that long in a while, but I had certain kinds of hallucinations. Like I'd be driving down the street and I'd see some trash cans off in the distance, and I'd be absolutely certain that it was a group of 4 people. I was like, what are those people doing over there? And then I'd drive closer, I'd realize, oh, they're just trash cans. That used to happen a lot, that kind of stuff. When I was on meth and up a lot, not really having a lot of times where I had serious sleep deprivation, it started to get pretty crazy. But I never interpreted it as anything other than what it was. Sleep deprivation induced auditory and visual hallucinations. The only time I have ever really felt crazy, like psychotic, was not that long ago when we came back from that A's game and I took half an ounce of mushrooms along with being on 2 Vyvanses, and it was weird. I kept going around in a circle. Like I've never experienced anything like it. I couldn't get a hold of my thoughts and stuff. And unlike a normal mushroom trip, it wasn't going away in the normal way after I wasn't coming down after like 5 hours like it should have been. I just kept seeming to spin. Eventually I was able to get enough rational thought to realize, and it took hours to get here, realized I need to take half a Klonopin. And that resolved the matter. But it was, the thing is, it wasn't terrifying in the moment, right? Because I was having a psychotic break. It was ultra manic. It's uploaded somewhere. I mean, it's watchable. But I just kept repeating the same things around and around and around, same ideas. I couldn't find my way out of it. It was weird. I was even explaining to people, like, you shouldn't listen to my words right now because I can't explain to myself why they're correct. I was obsessed with this fact in the moment, I was live streaming it. The only person who saw it in person was the neighbors with whom I had an unfortunate engagement. And now neither of us, we haven't talked to them, they haven't talked to us, we're not quite sure. I don't think either of us disliked the other ones, but I kind of screwed up. And hopefully we can remedy that relationship with those neighbors over here at some point. It was terrible. I suffered a lot in the aftermath of it. It wasn't a lot of suffering while it was happening, but the aftermath of it was a lot of suffering because it was very triggering for me in that It reminded me of being blackout drunk, except I could remember it better. But in the sense that I didn't feel like I realized afterwards that I had no control. I was completely just at the mercy of my psychosis. And, you know, prior to that, my plan, unable to leave or stop talking. Well, I like to talk on any kind of amphetamines, but thank you, DDX098. I forgot I was answering that question. Let me go back and reread the question. Okay, so the reason why NTPs would be called better tacticians is because action deliberation is obviously any TINE is mostly negationary in its orientation, whereas TENI is affirmative in its orientation. For TENI, they see the world as a place where one makes and follows through on plans that are usually ordinated into steps. This requires them to be less flexible in the now than NTPs who are not tied down by this plan thing, which is subject primarily to disruption. So it's like an NTP comes in and starts critiquing the plan on various grounds, things that could possibly go wrong. That primarily is just going to disrupt the plan and the behavior and action of the NTJ. So the NTJ, therefore, can be called a strategist because they have a plan. NTPs are tacticians because we don't have a plan. I think that's a good answer. Well, cat down the road. My story is I was standing over here, and I heard one of them say about something like, they don't seem to get it that people are filming them all the time. And I thought they meant, you don't get it, Eric, we're filming you all the time. So what I said to them was, I don't give a fuck if you film me, I'm live streaming this right now. And then I said, oh, by the way, I've been meaning to invite you to our wedding. It's the 8th, please, if you want to come by. So, needless to say, this is not the way to win friends and influence people. And for a long time after that happened, my shame shivers were so bad, I thought I'd need to go to a doctor to have them dealt with. Finally, they receded. Nice thing about SI is it does have a recency bias. So when people say time heals all wounds, they're talking about how that recency bias for SI means that as things fall into the past, they become less present in your head. Of course, I think that that's not necessarily the case for SI DOMs. And like I know Cameron still seems to have in his head a lot of stuff from his school days, childhood, whatever, references things from back then a lot. I don't know what the neighbor was actually saying, except I know they were saying, yeah, doesn't seem to get it that they're being filmed all the time. I think they were talking about the fact that people go into stores and there's always cameras and shit. And so it's like they were probably talking about somebody who's like fussy about being filmed but didn't seem to get that they're being filmed all the time in public. I suspect that's what they were talking about. That's not how I interpreted it. And I have no way of knowing without going and talking to them. And I'm too embarrassed to do that. People are filming you all the time. Every time you go into a store, you're being filmed. And people are like, oh, that's different. Why? And it's like, I want to get a shirt that says, I consent to being filmed and photographed at all times. What has been your experience typing XNTJ people? I typed DDX, I believe. I should send them a letter. I could write them a letter and put it at their house, you know. That is not a bad idea. But that's the sort of thing that I'll procrastinate on for a long time. Like getting my teeth fixed. It's easy to procrastinate on dental surgery. I don't think anybody enjoys that. Oh, God. I just can't wait till the 27th of October. Why? That's when my dental surgery is. I just love that chair and like being the center of attention, you know. I like it when people reach into my mouth. I get when I really break my bone up in there and the blood, you can taste the iron in your mouth. It's really great. I love the feeling of that needle injecting directly into my gum. Feels wonderful to me because I'm a mouth masochist. Not for the rest of me, but just my mouth. I enjoy as much pain in my mouth as possible. So that's why I love going to the dentist. I like the smell of the dentist office. That is true. I do like the way the dentist office smells. It smells like a dentist office. My experience typing X and TJ people. Well, ENTJs are easy to type because they're SI polar and obviously TE heavy. So I don't type many of them. When I do, I never hear anything from them again. They get their type, they take it, they believe it because I explain it well, and they leave, and that's it. They know their type, and they don't need to do anything more about that. INTJs are more likely to be interested in typology beyond just its utility to them. INTJs will tend to recognize that there's a significant and necessary explanation that resonates with NI, and that's an absolute value for INTJs. So I'm much more likely to hear from an INTJ again, like DD, I cannot remember your name, DDX098. She's a very much, definitely authentic female INTJ, which is pretty rare indeed. You know, a couple INTJs I like a lot. DDX098 and Shuffler. Great INTJs. There used to be an INTJ around here named Mega Bro because he was one of 8 children and all the other children were girls. He had 7 sisters. So he calls himself Mega Bro. He was a good INTJ too. Jonathan Basanti, he was around here. He was a good INTJ, but I guess yeah, every INTJ identifies with this statement. Everyone does everything wrong, and while I get angry about it, I say nothing. I reveal nothing. I forgot about that. I forgot about that statement. I rarely encounter INTJs, so I rarely get to use that statement to test for them. I'll remember it now, hopefully, next time I encounter one. I've never typed Lijo, so I'm talking about people I've typed. Like, this tooth right there is probably the little remnant of it that's there. Will probably, and I will even go ahead and say hopefully, come out at some point. But what qualifies the validity of this ruler? What qualifies it? Human error. I guess you have to qualify that the ruler is valid, predicated on the absence of human error. Is there any point to getting typed before understanding typology completely? Yes, but well, that's very any tool of you, money. The thing is, there are some aspects of typology we can understand completely. And if you're a map heavy type, like INTP, ENTP, INFJ, ENFJ, and some other types can be map favoring as well, but then explanations that are correct are informative in ways that are powerful for you yourself. However, if you are not a map-oriented type, if you are counter-oriented towards maps, say ESTJ, ISTJ, ESFP, maybe not so much ISFP because we got NI third. But if you are counter-oriented towards maps, like ISTJ, ESTJ, ESFP, then no matter how good or complete the explanation, you're unlikely to find it informs you about yourself meaningfully in ways that are absolutely valued by you. I find it an absolute value to know the holistic truth about a variety of things, including answering the question, why? Because you forget that receiving types are oriented in a state of receptive readiness, right? So they're expecting someone else to do the work. Naturally, they can only catch one ball at a time. So they operate under the assumption that they may have to wait for the other pieces to be thrown to them. If George Washington is ISTJ and my mother commented about his writing style being like mine in 6th grade, then does that mean that I'm an ISTJ? Or is that weak reasoning to hang a conclusion on? No, it's great. That's good enough right there. That's definitive. That's conclusive. You're definitely an ISTJ accordingly. Because your mom is an expert on both George Washington, writing, and you. So I trust her conclusions there. And it's definitely the case that all ISTJs write exactly the same. So, yeah, take it to the bank. If I were like this all the time, it would be very dangerous to kiss me. So that's why I'm not like that all the time. Having this needle with this thing on the end of it anywhere on my body would be a bad idea. I would definitely get poked by it or poke somebody else with it. Even if I put it in my beard, I'd be worried about it. People would be like, why do you have a needle in your beard? In case I need to sew something? But it doesn't have an eye on it. Okay, fine. In case I need to poke something? But is that really why you have it? I guess. Is that the only good reason I could come up with? There. Is that better? That just looks like I've decorated my beard with a pearl. Pretty cool, actually. This could be the next way that men make themselves look bling bling pimpin'. Bling bling pimpin'. Bling bling pimpin' is a good name for a rapper. Bling bling pimpin'. Or pimpin' bling bling. Bling bling pimpin' doesn't roll quite as well off the tongue as pimpin' bling bling. Bling pimpin' bling. Pimpin' Bling Dollar Bills is my name. I'm going to legally change my name to Pimpin' Bling Dollar Bills. DOLLA. Dollar. To set the next trend. That's what I do. I set the next trend. Just like that band that does that song that I was singing that from. Bling Bling Boy is a character in a cartoon show called Johnny Test. Really? Bling Bling Boy is also a good name for a rapper. If I were a rapper, I'd call myself No Grill. I don't have really much of a grill. Or I could call myself Juicy Short. You know. Baby Juicy Short. You know, I could sing sultry songs like, I'm baby juicy short. You look at in my shorts. Yes, you like them oh so much. Oh, you want to touch my butt. I'd be like that. Baby juicy short. That's for when I transition into an 18-year-old big-titted mixed race ESFP from Los Angeles who's 5 foot tall. But she calls herself Little Baby Juicy Short. Little Shorty Juicy Babe. Little Baby Shorty Juicy. Baby Shorty Juicy. That's what she calls herself. I see. Is Bling Bling Boy rich? Is he like Richie Rich? Richie Rich and the Funky Bunch? I think it's interesting that YouTube automatically switched my default orientation to vertical. And then when I tried to switch it back, recommended that I keep it on vertical and indicated that I'd be incorporated more in streams, like in more places. It would be available for people if I did it vertically. I guess I'll just do it vertically from now on. You know, I'm not quite sure why I always defaulted to horizontally, except it fills up more of the screen. But if you're watching on your phone, and probably the majority of people watch on their phone, I guess. Hello, Pagla boys. What's Pagla mean? Does it mean I have a lot of? You seem like a real person. Are you like from India or something? Cool. I I believe Pagla Boys is not a troll. Could be wrong, but I believe it to be the case. What's the difference between SE7 and SE4? Um, quite a bit. Rachel gets stuff done she needs to get done. Some of them. Well, they've got me checking for being a little bit more proactive about checking the person's page, you know. If they come in with a green circle and a P, a name all lowercase, and word I don't know, Pagla, I don't know what that is. So this looks a little suspicious. I should probably proactively check. Yeah, I patted him down. It was just stop and what is it called? Stop and search. What was that? What was that policy in New York they had called? Like stop and search or pull and pat, molest and manhandle. um, yeah, I did that. I patted them down. Frisk. Frisk is a good word. I frisk myself frequently, searching for either my cigarettes, my glasses, my lighter. I'm an auto frisk erotic. I'm auto frisk erotic. The Giuliani special. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, the thing is, they did successfully clean up New York. I was in New York back in the '80s when it was like all tore up, you know, like just full of crime and whatever. Has anyone talked about Taylor Swift dating that football player on the Chiefs? She should have again. Which football player is she dating? Kelsey? Is it the tight end Kelsey? Because I think I saw something. Yeah, Kelsey. Okay. Well, you know, she's dating probably the best tight end in the NFL. So I got to give her kudos for that. If her dating strategy is equivalent to a fantasy football strategy, she drafted well. Oh, DDX098. You just kicked me right in my 8th slot function. I did not follow through on something I said I was going to do. Now I feel ashamed and defensive. Taylor Swift has some sultry songs. She does. Like, I can't do this thing. I just gotta bend over and try. Could you help me pick it up? That's pretty sultry, right? Look what you made me do. I don't know that one. Yeah, you know, Taylor Swift obviously drafted well. How to make good art. I will make such a video. I think it probably won't be very instructive because it's kind of misguided of me to think that I could make such a video. You can explain easily enough all the possible mistakes somebody might make that can prevent a piece of art from being realized as a discovered and correctly rendered complete identity. So you can articulate mistakes. Like, for example, putting political stuff, contemporaneous political stuff, into anything is a good way to make sure it has no timelessness as art. Rarely you can get away with a little bit. Like the Beatles in Taxman, generally throughout the song, were entirely universalist about taxes, and that still resonates today because the lyrics aren't topically, they don't have a topical expiration date. But the reference in the middle of the song to Mr. Whoever and Mr. Whoever, who were in Parliament at that time, that's an example of them rendering that little bit of the song not timeless, because people don't get the reference anymore, because those people who were engaged in those political disputes at that time are all dead by now. Waiting for the Great Leap Forward, Billy Bragg song, in contrast, doesn't really reference anything contemporaneous, but references historical figures that are still going to be known a long time from now. So in that song, he talks about Che Guevara and Oppenheimer, but they're both big, larger-than-life characters. He talks about the Che Guevara Highway. He talks about Fidel Castro's brother, which is Raul, meeting a rich lady how Raul Castro would meet a rich lady driving on the Che Guevara Highway is beyond me, right? It says in there, Fidel Castro's brother. Wait, let me look up the lyrics. Make sure I get it right. Like, Billy Bragg doesn't seem to quite get that there aren't any rich people in Cuba besides Fidel and Raul Castro. If I played it, I'd remember it. I played the whole song the other day without having to look at the lyrics at all. It may have been Camelot for Jack and Jacqueline, but on the Che Guevara Highway, filling up with gasoline, Fidel Castro's brother spots a rich lady who's crying over luxury's disappointments. So he walks over and he's trying to sympathize with her, but he thinks that he should warn her that the third world is just around the corner. Okay, so who's this rich lady in Cuba filling up her car with gas on the Che Guevara Highway, crying over luxury's disappointment? No such successful person with money is allowed to keep it in Cuba. Fucking Billy Bragg. Freaking communist. Of course, the U.S. had to muddy the issues with its stupid, ill-conceived, T.E. born Cuban embargo. It's like, how many years are you going to embargo them before you admit that it doesn't work? It just hurts poor Cuban people and doesn't force Cubans to change their regime, obviously, because the people at the top are going to get everything they need and want, regardless of your fucking embargo. So they're not feeling the pinch. Dummies. Stupid, dumb embargo things, or trade sanctions or whatever. That shit never works. What would be best if we wanted to undermine the North Korean regime as much as possible? We shouldn't implement trade sanctions and shit like that. We should give them favored trading partner status and flood their country with our goods, media, etc. There's no better way to undermine an isolated totalitarian regime than that. And that's why the world needs Eric. Yes, it does. It needs his wisdom now because he's right. He's right about trade sanctions. Kim Jong-un is a badass. Really? I will agree to a boxing match with Kim Jong-un. I believe, even I, a 52-year-old, skinny, smoking old guy, can beat Kim Jong-un in a boxing match. And I would really like to punch him in the face. I'll even agree to an MMA match with Kim Jong-un. And I'll get a little training in some of my submission holds. I believe I could beat Kim Jong-un in either boxing match or MMA. Oh, he's a badass at being a Twinkie eating champion. He might beat me at that, but I think I beat him at that. Just because somebody's chubby doesn't mean they eat more. Like, just look at the hot dog eating contest. That guy who wins it all the time, he's not chubby at all. Does it need to be like that, or is that one needs to relieve the burdens from their conscience? What level TI is communism? Polar. Polar, maybe countervalued. I don't know. You gotta just not care at all to ignore arguments that win and think that your subjective bullshit is preferable. I mean, obviously, nobody else can better decide what to do with the wealth you earn through your own labor than you. It makes no sense whatsoever. If it is in fact the case that I'm not the best person to make the decision, why is it the case that somebody else is? Because communist people seem to forget that they're still giving power to other individuals. They're just taking away from themselves the power to replace those individuals. The sins are already absolved by Jesus Christ. No, you have to ask for forgiveness first, Jeremiah. Otherwise, it doesn't get forgiven. You have to opt in. You just can't expect it to happen unless you opt in. Are SE polars destined to fall short of their desired impacts? Probably. But it depends on what their desired impacts are. So my psychiatrist, Rachel's psychiatrist, he's almost certainly an INTP, although it's conceivably possible that he's an INFP, but he's definitely SE polar. What I've noted is he's definitely any tool. I've talked to him a lot. The whole first session with Rachel was a vigorous, basically, interrogation of him by me about why not prescribe for this? No. Explain this to me. And at the end of it, I felt satisfied that this person was somebody I could deal with. He felt responsible to answer my questions, which is something that a lot of people hate to do. Like, I'm asking a question, answer it. Is that so hard? It's just basic common courtesy to answer the question I'm asking honestly. But for a lot of people, like doctors, who want to control the frame, they don't know what I'm going to do with their answer. And that bothers them a great deal. Sometimes they want to ask me, where are you going with this? You don't need to worry about where I'm going. You just need to answer my questions. I don't even know where I'm going. It depends on your answers. And in that regard, DDX098 or whatever your name is, in that regard, NTPs are tactical, and that TE-DOM doctor probably is strategic. They have a strategy coming in how they're going to control this meeting with a patient, and my questions are throwing them into a little tizzy because they're good questions, and they can infer themselves some things about what I might do with the answer to this question. Probably assume I'm going to do it, even though they probably are assuming wrong. That is not a technicality. It's important. In other words, people are responsible for everything ultimately. That's the whole point of Christianity, is that you're responsible for your behavior. If you sin, you have to ask for forgiveness to be forgiven. That's accountability. It's built into Christianity, and it's what makes it better than other things. I like how I can see the tripod in my glasses. It looks cinematic or something. Kubal? Who is the Kubal? You are black-pilled at the moment? No, you don't have to ask a priest for forgiveness. You have to pray for forgiveness. I don't feel like getting molested, so I choose not to go see priests in the Catholic Church or go to any other church. I also believe that good Christians don't put much weight at all into the Bible, because the Bible was written by Jesus' dumbass friends, the New Testament. And they are dumb as fuck, you can tell by reading it. And so, no, I don't think Jesus' dumbass friends should be the end all and be all of Christianity. Like, some idiots are like, well, but the Bible says, blah, blah. You're missing the fucking point. Optimize Christianity to be what a religion should be, exactly. Don't accept some adulterated form of it because one of Jesus's idiot friends thought it was important to eat wheat bread or something. Which type is the ideal SE minion for the SE polar trying to accomplish impacts? I would suggest it's probably the benefactor type, whatever that type is for INTP and INFP. Like, ESTJ is my benefactor type. I'm the beneficiary. ESTJs benefit me, but I don't benefit them at all. So the benefactor-beneficiary relationship is a challenging one because you might find that circumstance in which you get your benefactor type to benefit you, but it's not going to be a comfortable relationship. You're going to not feel heard at all because your benefactor type doesn't listen to you. Why not? Why does my opinion of the apostles have anything to do with my status as a Christian? I believe that Christ died for our sins, right? I believe that the arrival of Jesus changed the relationship with the divine from one that was wrath focused to one that was forgiveness focused. In other words, from justice to virtue. Virtue is a positive indication, not a negative one. So, yeah, Jesus never said I couldn't be honest about my opinion about his dumbass friends. Jesus never said anything like that. Neither did God. So if you want to side with his dumbass friends over himself, then you go right ahead. But I'm not going to. Have you read the Bible? If you've read it and you're trying to reconcile it with what we know are the universals about Christianity, you are experiencing a lot of dissonance right now, right? And the reason is because Jesus didn't write any of the Bible. And nothing is less reliable than hearsay. The Bible is pure hearsay. I hear somebody else tell me what another person tell me about a third party. If you want to put a lot of weight into that, you don't know anything about evidence. And the point is, it's a magical thinking, friend, right? Remember that. Christianity, any kind of faith-based thing, is faith-based. It's about belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. So the thing is, I'm trying to get rid of that contrary evidence as much as possible so that I have to make less of a leap of faith. And I think we should all do that. We don't want to let people who writing about Jesus 2,000 years ago, we don't want to, or 1,800 years ago, or whatever, we don't want to let those individuals frame biases, particular biases from the time, lack of intelligence, lack of insight, whatever. We don't want to let that get between us and God. Again, you don't want to go searching in a fundamentally bad source for good nuggets. It's a bad way to source information. I mean, somebody did say that, the judge, but it wasn't Jesus. So if you want to favor Bob over Jesus, go ahead. That's your business. But just remember, when you're quoting these things, Bob said it, not Jesus. And it's up to you whether you want to have faith in Bob or in Christ. Personally, I think Bob's a moron. And also a bad writer. It's like, come on. Where's there are some juicy parts of the New Testament that are good, like Psalms is good. But because not all of Jesus' friends were dumbasses. The ones who write about like, and then we went to the town of Meow where we stayed in an inn, and the daughter was comely, and the innkeeper was kind. But in the town of Meow, we stayed in an inn, and the innkeeper was very rude and had no daughter. Like, the people who were writing shit like that, I could find quotes from them. And of course, you'd be like, Jesus, it's important for innkeepers to have daughters that can be comely daughters that the travelers can look at. So, yeah, maybe Jim did a great job in his portion, but even so, even if he's doing a great job, I'm not going to find myself drowning in a bunch of details when all we actually need are the top level principles. And to adulterate it further than that is to do a disservice to the holistic truth of the thing. You got kicked out? Yeah, the horny ISTJ. One of the apostles was a horny ISTJ. Well, Genesis was terrible, and Phil Collins' solo projects were no better. Peter Gabriel, also pretty terrible, although one can kind of hardly deny the song when it comes on in some restaurant you're singing to. In your eyes, meow, 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 your eyes, meow, 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 your eyes, meow, meow, meow. So you don't know the scriptures that said the people that wrote the Bible did so by moving power. So in other words, Bob said he was inspired by divine vision? Oh, you sure are gullible. So did the founder of Mormonism. Why aren't you a Mormon? So did Muhammad. Why aren't you a Muslim? If that's all it takes for you to believe that somebody represents God's word, well, I'll just tell you right now, I had a divine vision about what I'm saying to you. So it's true. I'm channeling the word of God right now. I said it. God told me. You should believe it. No. You want your relationship with God to be direct. You don't want it to be adulterated by a bunch of bullshit words that people wrote. No, I'm not going to read your thing. I'm not interested in reading it. Until you successfully rebut all my arguments with not something other than scripture, then you're entirely missing the point. You're just non-responsive, and therefore there's no reason for me to read anything you wrote. You haven't even been able to respond right now to the things I've said meaningfully, so why should I expect something you wrote to respond meaningfully to things I said when you hadn't even heard them yet? I'm looking for meaningful response, not to read your affirmation. Bob's an idiot. Well, Bob said you'd say he was an idiot. Therefore, we should listen to him. Well, it's because I've called Bob an idiot many times before. So he probably could anticipate that I would call him an idiot. And those who do not agree with this book are wrong because what I'm saying right now is coming directly from God, through me, and in my pen onto this paper. So if you encounter anybody who disagrees with these words, you just let them know, hey, fuck off. God said this, not the guy who's writing it. And then there are some people who are so dumb, they think that they can quote that to justify their faith in Bob. Right? So you got to be pretty dumb, the judge, to have as much faith in Bob as you do, when you could instead have faith in Jesus. Faith is belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. That's why it's important for us not to think that the Bible informs us objectively about God, right? That's not how magical thinking frames work. It's magical thinking because it's not based on evidence. In life, there are certain questions that you cannot answer with reason alone. Every positive moral question cannot be answered rationally. I can tell you there's a universal prohibition against rights violations of other people, and I can defend it argumentationally and win the argument every time because it's possible to use reason to determine what's correct about the negative half of moral equations. But the positive half of moral equations is such that that stopped their ears. That's you in your attempt to not hear the truth. Get born again, bro. I'm done. Bye. Okay, Mr. Bobby, see you later. Fuck off. Anyway, and good riddance. I do not need fake Christians in here proselytizing their toxic version of hate and defaming Christianity in the process. Okay, well, to the extent that you have faith in something that you have good reason to believe in, then you have incomplete reason to believe in it, and the faith just fills in those little gaps where there is no reason. So it's still doing the same thing. It's still believing in the absence of reason or in the face of contrary evidence, you know? If in fact, I don't have faith that the mail will come today, I know the mail will come today and will be surprised if it doesn't. If you ask me, is my knowledge certain that the mail will come today? I will concede that no, it's not certain. It's just a prediction. No prediction is certain. When we're predicting the future, there's always the possibility that we're wrong. But I'm operating under the assumption the mail will come today because it's Tuesday and it comes every Tuesday. It has never missed a Tuesday yet. So in that sense, you could say I have faith because I'm believing in something that hasn't happened yet and therefore can never actually be definitive in knowing that it's going to happen. But that would be misusing the term faith. Faith is evident behavior of that which cannot be verified? That doesn't make any sense at all. Share my face. The thing is, I've said before, faith is a behavior, which is to say, you don't need to justify prayer because prayer is not an argument, right? It's not a claim you're making. It's not an affirmation. It's not a negation. It's a behavior like jogging. It's like spiritual jogging. Well, the reason it doesn't make sense is because the prepositional phrase modifying behavior, which reads, of that which cannot be verified, which cannot be verified is an adjective clause modifying that. But anyway, so of that is the prepositional phrase. That's the part that doesn't make sense, right? Evident behavior of that. Behavior of that doesn't make any sense. Knowledge of that, observation of that, experience with that, resonance with that, etc. There's a lot of things that you could put before of that that make sense. Behavior doesn't make sense before of that. So what you're doing there is basically treating the word behavior, which implies action, as though it were an observation kind of verb, which implies a knowledge orientation. That's why it doesn't work. But it's not because anything I'm saying doesn't make sense. But I'm saying makes perfect sense. I thought you were leaving. No, I'm not drunk, you idiot. I've had the Virgin Mary talk to me every Friday evening, and I have faith she won't be a virgin on Saturday anymore. I know, well, her vagina is burning a hole in her pants, let's put it that way. She is so eager to get out there and use it after being a virgin for such a long time. Even though she's 75 years old now, she looks like she's 68, you know. She's 2,040 years old, but she fucks like she's 30. Ruben R. Observing nature as a child is the reason I believe in God, and the platypus confirms God as any. Remember, Bufo Peregrines, you don't need a reason to believe in God. The best reason to believe in God is this. Because positive moral questions can't be evaluated without a magical thinking frame. Or another good reason to believe in God is because if you don't, you won't be able to quit drinking. Those are good reasons to believe in God. Right, God's an ESTJ. Jesus is an INFJ. Holy Ghost is an ENTP. Let's go with that. You could switch those two. You could make the Holy Ghost an INFJ and Jesus is an ENTP. Because it seems likely that there's a lot of intellectual work done by Jesus to figure out what the top level virtue is and do all the parsing regarding justice versus virtue. That suggests he might be an ENTP. But he could have just holistically intuited it all. Not gone the brute force approach like an ENTP, in which case he would be an INFJ. The Holy Ghost is the other one because it takes an ENTP and an INFJ to deal with an ESTJ. If it's reasonable, then it's not faith, Ruben. Stop trying to muddy the meaning of the word faith. That's not faith. That's your operating assumption. We all have an assumptive background that we operate upon. That doesn't qualify as faith. That's not belief in the absence of evidence or in the face of contrary evidence. That's belief in the face of consistent present evidence. In other words, every time I drive out of here, I drive down the road. The only reason you don't consider that evidence is because you're SI polar. My experience definitely counts as evidence. What type is Mary Mags? Mary Magdalene? Is that the same thing as the Virgin Mary? I'm going to go with let's see. I don't know who Mary Magdalene is. I'm going to go ENTJ. She's an ENTJ, that boy class. If Jesus was an INFJ, he would have a conflicted relation with God according to socionics. Well, I think he does, because God's all about wrath and justice. And Jesus is saying, let's be a little bit more nuanced about this whole thing, shall we? I mean, the human experience comprises nothing but a succession of failures and falling short. Humans are fallible creatures. He made them that way. Let's make this whole thing fair in some fashion and provide a reasonable way for people to live without suffering constantly from guilt and shame. Well, God was an ESTJ. He had no NI. It's like, what am I going to do with these people? I sent them fucking locusts. Now what? Well, they are two different things. Your assumptive reality is different than faith. Faith, as I define it, is belief in the absence of evidence, or in the face of contrary evidence. If you don't want faith to mean that, then we need to find another word that means that, because that's what I mean when I'm talking about faith, and it's what people should mean when they're talking about faith, because it's what faith does mean. It's why the Bible says you are saved by faith, not works. Okay, because faith is distinct from works. It is instead of doing something good, it's just engaging in a belief process or engaging in some sort of, praying to God kind of thing, right? Everybody who believes in God and Jesus or Muhammad or whatever is exercising faith because there's no good reason to believe in those things. The best reasons are the ones I articulated. Either utilitarian, like I need God to help me quit drinking, or ultra metacognition, like I want to unlock the toolbox that faith-based thinking affords, and in my status quo, I'm frame locked into rationality, and so I have no way to inform myself about questions that can only be answered by magical thinking. Okay, I gotta go because my phone is about to run out of electricity, and because I'm live streaming vertically, I can't charge it while I'm live streaming. So, or I'd have to hold the phone instead of having a tripod. So anyway, I love you all. I'll see you later. Thanks for being here. And don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.